Good morning and welcome to Breakfast Extra. Yesterday, Maziono and I touched a bit on education, and honestly, I couldn't just let it go. The gist was too hot to ignore, like jollof rice. So today, let's peel this onion all the way back. Warning though, it stinks. Nigeria's education system is not just cracking at the seams, it is rotting from the inside out. The latest JAM revelations read less like an audit and more like the script of a bad Nollywood trailer. Picture this: over 6,000 cases of biometric fraud, ghost candidates appearing with borrowed thumbs and fake faces, AI-driven impersonations. Oh yes, artificial intelligence, parents, somebody smarter or someone willing to cheat sits this exam for them. Parents faking disabilities just to sneak in special waivers for the same disabilities you prayed that your children wouldn't have while birthing them. Centers running cartels, schools coaching fraud and not knowledge. Officials turning the other way. This isn't just malpractice anymore. This is organized crime in classrooms. Honestly, if it wasn't so tragic, it would be funny, right? And the worst part, the fingerprints of parents are everywhere. JAM says 8 out of 10 of these fraud cases were cooked by mothers and fathers. Everybody, can you imagine that? The very people meant to be role models, the first teachers of honesty, becoming masterminds of deceit. Daddy sleeps an invigilante, an envelope. Mommy registers junior under 2 different names. So what lesson is being taught at home? Not resilience, of course, not hard work, not merit. The lesson is simple. Honesty now for mumu people. Fraud is a strategy, and success without sweat is smart. Scared yet? This is the Nigeria we're living in. We love to chant the phrase, children are the future. It's sweet for you, Abby, but I beg. What kind of future are we talking about? One where our doctors cannot diagnose malaria or Buruli ulcer without Google, or engineers can't calculate, our lawyers can't reason. One where, certificates glitter, but knowledge inside is emptier than Nepal's promises. And here is the bigger evil. Corruption doesn't begin in public office, no. It begins in the exam hall. Scratch that. It actually begins in the living room, in the whisper of Momsi and Popsi, don't worry, I'll sort it out. That whisper becomes a rhythm, then an anthem, until it becomes the soundtrack of our nation. A society where the fake is celebrated above the faithful, where a child who cheats is praised for being sharp, while the one who studies all night is mocked for being mumu. That's how nations collapse. Not because people don't go to school, but because those who went to school learned nothing except how to cheat the system. Employers already complain. Graduates who can't, draft a simple memo, who can't think beyond TikTok captions. Patients fear doctors who can diagnose beyond what Google suggests. Citizens suffer under leaders who mastered shortcuts long before they mastered responsibility. So I beg, let us stop acting. Stop acting that this is just about exams. It is bigger than JAM. It is about conscience. It is about the soul of our nation. If children are truly the future, then look. See, I said look, and some of you replied, look what a hot body can do. Look, if children are the future, can you guess how many children are left? Because what we have now at these centers and children, look closely. Because the future we're building is a future of fraud, of empty certificates, of leaders without depth. And when that future finally arrives, we won't just regret it. we will be ruled by it. And with that, again, I say good morning. I am Queen Celestine, and welcome to Breakfast Extra. And of course, I am not here alone. I have the one and only Mazino Opil with me. Mazino.
Look.
Look what a hot mess I've done.
Look what a hot mess we're in, actually,
Nice.
quite frankly.
It's sad.
I knew we were going to talk about that since after yesterday and our 9 o'clock conversation. It was quite an eye-opener, and I got calls from after the show regarding
It was.
People were actually very surprised the kind of state we find ourselves in Nigeria with the education system. And you said it from before when you asked, what kind of future are we building if this is how we're investing in our children?
It's terrifying.
It's crazy. Yeah, don't worry, Daddy will fix it.
Daddy will fix it.
That kind of like seems to encapsulate the entire wahala. Yeah, but grand monologue.
Thank you.
Sorry, I lost my voice last night, but it's coming back. But when
It will
you get
be
here,
back.
we'll have more conversation.
All right, I'm coming over.
All righty.
All right.
And you're welcome once again. It's Breakfast Extra. You're tuned into the Sunday edition, and we have quite the lineup this morning. Now, first, we're diving into the tug of war at the Ministry of Women Affairs, protesting counter-protest, and also questions about whether the calls to sack the minister are really about staff welfare or just pure politics. Now then, the nation's health sector takes center stage. Resident doctors have declared a 5-day warning strike, shutting down hospitals across the country. Patients are stranded, doctors are demanding action, and lives are on the line. From there, would widen the lens to the economy. Nigeria's debt burden now at a so-called critical point. What does this mean for citizens, for public service, and also for generations yet unborn? The future, like we just spoke about inside of the monologue. Well, we'll also take a check on the family and wellness. Teaching children about hygiene, the small habits that keep them safe today and shape their health for life. And of course, we'll tackle the bigger question of survival in Nigeria, VAT, inflation, the hidden cost of, just trying to get by in this economy. Finally, we'll take you beyond the borders. Nepal's Gen Z protests have redrawn the political map in Asia. What's the African implications for what we're going to be looking at? Can restless young people here find lessons in Kathmandu's uprising? It's a full table this morning, and you don't want to miss a single thing. Of course, I have with me is the delectable, what's your name again? Queen Celestine. I joke. My apologies. All right, so we doing the papers, aren't we?
Yes, we
If
are.
I'm not mistaken. So we will be getting to the papers. But interesting bit about the whole Kathmandu instance, and the fact that a lot of people have been talking about that. However, there's something very special that's happened in Kathmandu in Nepal. And I never see that happen in Nigeria, and I'm hoping that we're going to adopt it, please. Now, not whenever, this was the first protest they had that had the Gen Z involved. What had happened was, after the protest, they all came out again the next day. Guess what they came out to do?
Tell me.
To clean up the mess. They swept the streets, they washed off the walls, they rubbed off the graffiti. They're actually putting things back together again. And that's very wholesome. And I'm wondering whether it's a lesson that we can take from the entire instance. When we go about our protests in Nigeria, what happens the day after? Do we just leave the mess that we've left behind? It's a lesson I think that we need to imbibe.
Because, first off, I think to an extent, let's say, Nepal has been functional because, it was clean, it was smooth and all that. So for them to come out to protest, going back home, they'll tell themselves, this is not how the country was, so we'll come together and clean it. So they take what what we want seriously. So I believe that makes sense. Makes complete sense.
Please, so if you're calling for a protest, remember there has to be something for after, and that is normally, or should normally be, just clean up, because we do live a lot of, you do live a lot of mess.
Yes.
Very interesting sample there from Nepal, and it's still ongoing with the new Prime Minister.
Yes.
What's her name again? Sushila Kaki. Very unusual, because you'd think that the Gen Z would call for somebody who's within their age bracket to perhaps maybe be able to translate their grievances to the government. But this time it's a 73-year-old woman who herself, should be a
maybe
grandmother.
they're holding on to her trajectory of her work.
Yes, exactly. And that's the difference with Nigeria. It's about what you've put out from before your precedents. This is what you're known
It's
for
like
doing.
which that we try to grab in Nigeria, but we can't seem to.
Nah. Who do you want to grab in the first place?
The ghost candidates.
So, you said it. Let's do a short break, and when we come back, it's going to be the papers, either one way or the other, maybe the editorials or the papers itself. We'll find out. Stay tuned. I've just been threatened by the producers. But in any case, you're welcome. Good morning once again. It's our first big report on Breakfast Extra for a Sunday edition. Now, on a big report today, this will be a very interesting one. Protesters stormed the office of the head of the Civil Service of the Federation and the Ministry of Women Affairs in Abuja, urging President Bola Tinubu and the head of service to ignore what they say are politically motivated calls to sack Minister of Women's Affairs, Hajia Iman Suleiman Ibrahim. The demonstrations follow an earlier protest by some civil servants accusing the minister of neglecting their welfare, unpaid allowances, lack of promotion opportunities, poor work tools, and what they describe as neglect of internal staff welfare. Now, organizers of the Solidarity protest, led by Emmanuel Awao of the Center of Accountability and Public Engagement, described previous agitations as an embarrassment orchestrated by persons who want to embarrass the minister for her home state, and even at the center. They charged that those calling for her removal are driven by politics, not genuine concern. Meanwhile, Minister Ahmed Suleiman Ibrahim has held a town hall meeting forgiving dissenting staff and pledging immediate improvement in welfare and working conditions. But workers are still demanding action, trust and proof that the promises won't vanish, and also press statements. Now, here is Blessing Ahigbe's report from Through the Week, our New Central correspondent. Let's take a look.
Of the ministry, as they expressed deep frustration over the poor administration and mismanagement of the ministry's operations by the minister, Iman Suleiman Ibrahim. The staff said that they have very serious concerns about her conduct, but this has been ignored by the minister as she continues to shun concerns raised to improve operations at the ministry.
Going through a lot in this ministry. Ever since the minister has came to this ministry, he has never had a day to talk to us. As I am like this, I'm a widow. There was a time I needed my minister to stand by me, to fight for me, but he was not there. I could not see her.
That one aside, she told us that she's not accountable to us, she's accountable to the president. Like we should go and meet permanent secretary in anything we need. We don't have working tools at all. Even a piece of paper to write with, we don't have. And most of the time, you do official assignment with your personal money. Your personal money. You are sent to attend a meeting in Wuse 2. You cannot get along to Wuse 2. You have to pick a drop to Wuse 2.
The staff said that issues burden on a lack of transparency, lack of guidance and adequate support for the ministry needs to be addressed.
But this one, there is a communication gap. So staff don't know if there is fund to buy working tools or not. At times when they see people, contractors doing work, we begin to ask questions. There's no money to work, to attend to our needs, like the working tools. But we can see the environment being painted. We can see certain things going on. So, but if they are communicating staff that these are old contract that is given and they have to finish the work, so when money comes, they will pay them. All of us will be in the same page.
I'm calling on our president, our available president, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. I'm calling his attention that this type of behavior this way demonstrating will not help the next election. What we want, if possible, should be posted to another ministry.
They are calling on the federal government to take action on the matter and improve the working conditions. In Abuja, for New Central, Blessing Ahigbe.
So a visible tug of war inside the Ministry of Women Affairs. On one side, civil servants are complaining of neglect, welfare, working tools and unpaid duties. On the other, a minister under fire but defending her mandate, claiming that many of the attacks are political and aimed at weakening her leadership and women in power generally. Trust is low, patience is thinner, staff want proof and not just promises. But let's welcome Blessing Akibe, News Central correspondent, to shed more light on what's happening within the ministry. Blessing, good morning, and thank you for joining us. Let's just dive into it. Can you tell us what the mood was like and how many protesters were involved in this, solidarity rally for the minister? And what was their scale compared to the earlier staff protest?
I would say the atmosphere was actually filled with anger and disappointment for the minister. And according to the staff, they said that this is the first time this kind of protest is actually happening at the ministry, that this kind of protest have not happened before. And from what I was there, there were like hundreds of staff at the ministry that was actually protesting. Some were even eating the gates at the ministry, almost bringing it down, while some even sat at the entrance of the gate to prevent the minister from leaving while the protest was still ongoing. There were also several security personnel in case the protest escalated to something very serious. And while all this was going on, while protesters, some group of protesters were actually demanding for a removal, the permanent secretary was also pleading on her behalf because, according to her, she said that the minister had an important meeting to attend to before they eventually allowed that.
What made it to the the video and what we see online? Were there specific welfare grievances raised by the staff? And when did they start? And what department seems to have been affected the most?
I would say all departments are actually affected, and some common areas raised by the staff was unpaid allowance, because some of them have to use their own money to carry out operations at the ministry. Some people complain that they did not even have basic working tools like papers and printers, and that the CJ wasn't even functioning. And they also complain that there is a delay in their welfare packages, and that some of the staff, or the majority of the staff, do not receive the last salary packages. And they also complained that the professional training that was supposed to take place in the ministry have not been done yet. So these were like the main issues they were to discuss with the minister at the town meeting, and I asked him for what actually triggered the whole protest.
So, Blessing, after the protest, there was a town hall meeting called by the minister, and in which she said, "I forgive you, but however, things are going to get better." So I'm wondering what you thought about that. What did it seem like? Tell us about the minister's body language. Did it seem like she got the message from the protest, or did it seem like she was just simply trying to make this go away so that normal activities can resume? Do you think that there was, what can you tell us about her body language at that town hall?
During the town hall, seeing the minister's body language, I would say that she was actually remorseful about the whole thing that happened. I think she actually wanted a better operations at the ministry, because she addressed some of the welfare conditions of the staff, and she even assured them that she will handle all these issues within the ministry, or rather available resources. And in the effort to actually ease tension and foster reconciliation between the minister and the staff, she also gave out 50 kg bags of rice to each staff that was present at the town hall meeting in order to end the whole, or rather reconcile with the staff about the whole thing that happened.
Yeah, so did the staff, were they satisfied with her comments? Do you think that they took home whatever it was she said? Do you think she learned a lesson herself?
She did learn a lesson. Of who wouldn't learn a lesson of what happened? She did learn a lesson. And the staff, they actually took our words for it, because after the town hall meeting, they all started praising her, talking that they will work better with her and all that.
So, Blessing, before you go, while she said she has forgiven the staff, did she put a time frame to when things will change and when they will get their arrears welfare and all that?
They didn't actually give a specific details of how the whole plan is going to take place. We only assured them that they will handle the whole issue.
Okay, thank you so much, Blessing, for joining and giving us an update of what happened in the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Blessing. I totally understand why you would ask that question.
I forgive you,
It's one thing to
Mazino.
say, yes, it's going to get better. It's another thing to say, when is it going to get better?
I forgive you.
Yeah, you when? Tomorrow. Let's take a quick break. We've got another conversation coming your way inside of Breakfast Extra.
Welcome back, and this is still Breakfast Extra, and this is our first big story for the day. And thanks for being here. So resident doctors across Nigeria began a 5-day warning strike as of Friday following the expiration of yet another ultimatum to the federal government. The doctors under the banner of the Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors are demanding, or were demanding, the immediate disbursement of the 2025 Medical Residency Training Fund, the payment of salary arrears, including 5 months of arrears under the revised consolidated medical salary structure, outstanding specialist allowances, hazard allowances, and improved welfare overall. Public hospitals in several states, including Lagos, Abuja, Oyo, and others, were part of the shutdown of non-emergency services. Patients were stranded, especially in accidents and emergency units. Many clinics sent people home due to lack of doctors on the board. While some centers were holding minimal staff, most resident doctors are compiling fully with the strike call, saying government promises have repeatedly been delayed or ignored.
Public health care, beg your pardon, public health care already stretched thin. Now that stood at the very edge, and sudden halts to services and all, mothers in labor, accident victims. Physicians warned that long-term delay is fulfilling these welfare demands, endangered lives and morale. However, fast forward to today. It's a Sunday, and we hear that the doctors' strike has been called off. Have they gotten their demands met? Are there promises that have timelines to them? Well, we're going to find out. We have with us Dr. Benjamin Olojebutu, National First Vice President of the Nigerian Medical Association. Dr. Olojebutu, you're welcome. Grand of you to come again. Always, each time we call, you're always here. And I got the name right today.
Yes, you got it right today.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
How is it still going on?
We're good, but we're very concerned for the doctors.
Yes, thank you.
This happens many, many times. Okay, we're going to go back to work, and then there's another strike. Demands are always made. The question is, are they met? When these conversations happen with the authorities, how many are stricken off of the checklist that we're going to do this, we're going to do this, and like our Queen noted this morning, with a timeline?
The point for me, thank you for having me again all the time. I love your conversations. You guys do a good job.
Thank you.
But, why must you always get to this point in this country that there must be ultimatum all the time? Why is there no proactive ideas of how things can be solved in this country? Why are they taking doctors very seriously? Why must it be a warning strike or a strike for you to think about those that serve you? Somebody told me yesterday, said, Dr. Benjamin, we treat these people very, very well when they are sick, but we cannot even afford to buy ourselves paracetamol when we have headaches. That's how bad the problem is. So on Friday, the strike started. I think by the morning of, that's Thursday, by the morning of Friday, they started getting alerts because they went on strike.
Alerts? What kind of alerts?
For MRTF, Medical Residency Training Fund. Now, that fund is in the act of residency training, which means every year there's a fund for them to help them do the exams, the audit courses. Imagine people don't get the money on time and they can't do the exams to improve training, to improve capacity, to improve. It's in the act because the rigorous nature of training is very, 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 is a big tax in this country. So it's in the act that they must get a fund to support them while they're doing training. And some big centers in Nigeria haven't got to the funds, and they cannot go for their exams. The exams are not pretty expensive because the exams are national exams and West African exams are very, very expensive. So the government had told us at the end of July, when we started an MOU, a memorandum of understanding with the government, when NMA itself called an ultimatum that time that they were going to do this thing before the end of August. So August came, no funds. Even the funds that we're supposed to get for 7 months arrears, they only pay paltry of 2 months. Some didn't even get at all, you know. So, and now they went for another ultimatum, and before they went on the warning strike. The warning strike is what now brought out the funds. So was the funds not there before? I don't understand. Because there was a shutdown in the healthcare space, the government understood that we're not joking, and they now paid the MRTF. Okay. But the comments areas of 7 months or 5 months.
Let me read that list.
Go ahead.
There is the case of settling 5 months arrears, stemming from 25 to 35%.
Not done. Not done yet.
Not done. Payment of 2024 accountant. Accoutrements allowance arrears. Not done. Funds disbursement of specialist allowance.
Not done yet.
Recognition and restoration by regulatory bodies of West African postgraduate membership certificates.
Not done yet.
Faster issuance of membership certificate for qualified candidates. We'll yet to find out.
Yes.
Other welfare issues, challenges in Kaduna, and specifically hospital concerns such as those at Lautech in Ogbomosho.
Not solved yet.
Now, you had at least 7 demands. One of them was kind of like, let's just give them a low-hanging fruit, the MRTF. And then the doctors call out a strike. Now, there's 7 demands here. How many more strikes until we see proper service from the doctors? Because you're only taking one demand, one resolution each time, it would seem.
It's painful. You know, for me, it's about conscious, concerted effort for a good nation. And the fulcrum of a good nation, you should show care to the people that serve the nation. You can't ask us to be patriotic in this country, and you as government are not giving us our flowers, because these doctors work 72 hours, sometimes a whole 30 days on call, and passionately giving their best to this country. Right. And we have to beg for what it is in the law, what is rightful theirs, you know. And it's painful that these doctors are still going ahead. We lost a doctor a couple of weeks ago, you know, in the hospital. We lost another one day before yesterday, another resident yesterday before yesterday, yes. And, you know, and the burdensome of the work, the seriousness of the work is getting more because there are fewer doctors doing a lot of job and everything. And the things that make them just feel a little happy that they are being appreciated, you're not doing it for them. So it looks as if we are doing the doctors a favor to get their rightful things. And it's painful. You know, we must get to a point that we must tell ourselves the truth. And I need you media people that help us amplify this problem. Right. Because all of us are in the same country. It can't be the doctors alone talking about these challenges. You all have voices. You are big media people. Let people know that our lives are being affected as doctors in this country. Our lives are being affected because people just walk and drop dead. No welfare package, no improvement in salaries. The last time we had salary improvement, salary bargain was 11 years ago. 11 years ago, Mazino, and that's like you beg for it. And the CBA says every 3 years you do a negotiation with your employer and you. But right now we're just here working hard. So one demand was done because people have to write their exams very soon. The national exam was just postponed because people couldn't pay for the exam, so they postponed it, and they got this money. So they can use this money not to pay for the exams that did do like a couple of weeks to go. But that is not good. So it's like you give like a small water just to take to whet your appetite, and it's not very good. These demands are easy to be done if the government is very serious about doctors.
So I think you mentioned that, you know, the fees for the exams are pretty expensive. And I think we talked a few weeks ago about, you know, how much doctors were earning. I think something about 200K a month.
Yes,
I'd like to know how much this exam, what are the ranges for this exam?
Between $1,400,000 and $1,500,000.
So how do you guys pay for this? I see where you're going.
That is why that part of the MRTF was in the act, to cushion these challenges. But the government doesn't understand. So let me give you a scenario. If government understands business, if you don't pay this MRTF for the people that are ready to go for exam,
right,
you will still pay it. So you keep them in the waiting pool for another year. So you are using the funds for this year because you didn't pay them on time. They can't write their exams. But you must still pay them. So the longer they stay in the residency training, the more you have to pay them the MRTF fund. The more you are not you are like using funds that meant for other people because you are the ones wasting money. So for example, if they do it at the right time, people do the exams on time, they transit, some other person comes in. So that slot is not used over many times because you are fulfilling your part of the bargain. So imagine if you didn't go on strike now, they won't pay this money. And when they didn't pay this money, this same set of people that couldn't do exams this year will now still be paid next year. So one more year of expenses.
It's like demurrage at the ports.
Demurrage, are you getting my point? You get it right. Yeah. So it's like, are you taking this residency training seriously? Do you really care about Nigerians like you say you care about them? Because imagine what happened on Friday. People died, people didn't get access to healthcare, people didn't get access to see doctors because the fulcrum of the doctors in this country are the resident doctors. They're the ones that the largest number of athletes we have in NMA, and they work very, very passionately. So we must think about the future of healthcare in this country. People that are still saying, let's keep this country sane. Let's work for this country. Let's be Nigerians for Nigerians. We're going to stay back here. We're not going to go out there because we believe that somebody must treat our family, somebody must treat the Nigerians. Let's stay here. And you don't care about them.
You know, this conversation keeps me like...
Yeah, I can see it's agitating you.
So Mazina mentioned something earlier. You gave like 7 lists of things that you guys... The demands, right? And then they gave just a snippet of one of it. And then now the strike is called off.
Because we care about Nigeria.
Because you care about Nigeria. So how long will this care continue? Do you think you guys will come to a point where you have to say, you know what, no more strike and pay us what you owe? Because if they're giving you just a stipend and then for you to go back to work, I'm a bit concerned as
to... what tools would you use to make that demand? Would it be another strike? Because these strikes seem not to work. Because even the Doctors Association are really not putting their foot down, is what you're trying to say.
Yes.
Like, for instance, it's a Sunday and the strike has been called off. What benchmark has been put in place to ensure that whatever the demands are, that they are resolved? What guarantee do the doctors have that these are going to definitely
we don't have any guarantee.
So is it just love for... I know the doctors' oath is strong, but you are also human beings at the end.
Right. I like the fact that you understand what human beings. That's what I'm saying. You know, we're exhausted. It looks like we're exhausted. The doctors have tried. They've given ultimatums. We've given timelines. We've almost literally begged for money. Because I had to call my friends in CBN about the money for the doctors' MRTF. It's painful that government is not understanding the gravity of not taking care of us. So a lot of the country, people, the doctors called off the strike. But I can assure you, there's a limit you can push people to. It's called a breaking point.
There's a limit to what love can do.
There's a limit to what love can do. And we all go to the same market. And the market doesn't ask you, are you a doctor or a broadcaster? You just have to pay.
Yes.
Some doctors can't even pay their school fees of their children anymore because the economy is in shambles.
Then we're losing a whole lot.
So the doctors, what I want government to understand is that when you don't take care of your own, when you lose it, you shouldn't complain. There's not one doctor to about 10,000 patients in this country. Do the math. For every doctor that moves out or that dies, you lose the capacity to treat 10,000 people. And we're not getting enough of that. Now, if government thinks about healthcare as a social enterprise that increases the GDP of the nation in the outlook, that you take care of your own, and everybody that are pushing their best into the workforce of the country, they are working tirelessly. The least you must do for them is appreciate them. Imagine a doctor earning about 50,000 naira a month. What does that do for the doctor? How can he take care of his family? How can he take care of his children or our children? So the point for me is that the strike is what maybe is the only thing the government understands to take care of the people. But sometimes because of the love and our Hippocratic oath of the people, you can't see people dying and you just see them dying but we are humans. Let government take us more seriously. These demands are not far-fetched.
So,
just sit down.
Dr. B, what are these delicate benchmarks or guarantees? And I use the word delicate purposely because of the situation doctors find themselves with the Hippocratic Oath. What are these benchmarks that have been put in place, especially in this instance, to ensure that the government comes to your demands?
So there is an ongoing collective bargaining agreement with that stem out of the MOU we signed. The MOU is the Memorandum of Understanding we signed with the NMA a couple of weeks ago, end of July, that has started. And the fact is that the Minister of Labour is the one conciliating for government and having meetings with us and asking for our demands. The meeting started about a week ago. We have another one scheduled for Thursday and Friday, where we're now engaging government and telling them this is what is peculiar to Nigerian doctors, these are the things we want them to do. And I'm hopeful that the government will understand that where we were 11 years ago is not where we are now, and their demands we've asked them for, and we submitted our demands. You know, hopefully by Thursday, Friday, we have a sit down with the government that involves the Minister of Health, hopefully the Minister of State for Health, and also the Minister of Labour. Sit down with us as doctors, and we can engage. And in engagement, it will be a superior argument. Why do you want this and that? And this is what makes it important for us. For example, there's an allowance we actually called scarce skill allowances, which means now that we have fewer doctors in this country and more patients, we must get that skill of doctor is not very, very scarce. So there's an allowance that should cover that kind of allowance. You know, we have allowance called out-to-reach areas. You know, some doctors leave their houses and working very, very
extra effort
together. So we've put up a very, very robust engagement schedule. And I believe with our thought processes, our passion, and our negotiating skill, we can get this thing from the government.
Well, we're hoping with you because we actually feel the issues that doctors are going through, and strike might not be the best thing, especially with the consideration for life of patients and all. Yeah. But Dr. Lojabetu, want to say thank you very much for giving us better...
Stick to the first name, Dr. Benjamin.
I like the traditional Nigerian, you know, heritage.
I don't want to murder your name.
No, you're straight.
All right, just do Dr. B. Dr. B, thank you very much
for joining us this morning.
Thank
you.
Now let's stay tuned. We've got more conversation coming up before the end of this hour, and also inside of the rest of it just before 11 o'clock. Stay tuned. We'll be back. And you're welcome. It's time for news strips. And this morning we have a very interesting array of very interesting editorial cartoons that we've gotten ready for you this morning. And I'm doing it with, of course, my delectable co-host, and that's Queen Celestine. Thank you very much for joining us still. Are you ready, Queen?
I am ready.
All right.
My favorite part.
Let's start with our very first... Yeah, it is your favorite bit. Let's start with our very first strip for today. We've got very interesting ones, and most of them all have one character in them. Like it's a theme, and you'll find this character mostly throughout the entire theme. Let's talk about this now. This is from Business Day. We have met/that made our target. It's an arrow. It's by Asuko, by the way. It's an arrow, a target, and then at the other side, I hope I'm not that there. Now, if you can't see that well, this says loan. Now, Queen, very interestingly, this is what's happening here. The Nigerian system is a very interesting one where we are always hearing on the media that we've met the target, this is what's happening, the economy is getting better, inflation is dropping, and all and all and all. And we're happy. But this editorial cartoon tells us why that is being met. And it's a very simple reason. You see, the mechanism for meeting these goals is just in one place. It's stagnant. It's not moving. It's really not doing anything, quite frankly. But we still find out that we're meeting this target. How come? Because the country, the authorities, the government, it would seem that what this cartoon is trying to say, the president keeps on moving the goal. It's like moving the goalpost to suit wherever your striker kicks it. We will meet it, whether you like it or not, but at what cost? The real goal here for Nigeria is to get more loans, however, and that target doesn't even have a bullseye in it. It's got a hollow. So for every time we meet the target, we find that we're still looking for loans every single time. There's plenty of talk about how much loan and how much debt Nigeria is in now. So if we're doing better, why are we still looking for extra loans? There are many takes on this, that the kind of development that we need, well, we need extra, we need collaboration, we need partnerships. That's understood. But then again, are we painting the real picture of how the economy is doing, or are we just pandering to, are we just putting numbers out there for people to think that we are doing something? And when I say we, I mean the authorities. What do you think?
I think all I can say is, today is just leaving me speechless with everything, but all I can say is what we need most important is transparency.
Yeah.
Transparency, because
Exactly.
each time, like you say, we keep meeting a target, and inside the target, there's a tiny little bit hole that leads to loan every time. Then it makes us wonder, where are we?
Exactly. I have to take a couple of notes here because I found this very interesting. This is what I put down. Now, this cartoon exposes it. It's a credibility problem.
Right.
Do we believe what the authorities are telling us at the end of the day?
Not really.
Because when you look at it, the numbers are not adding up. If we're making that good progress, why aren't we?
Just like the graph last week that was upside down?
Yeah, the one from last week where, you know. But let's take another one. I think the next one might be similar to this one, if I'm not mistaken. No, it's not. We'll come back to that one. Now, remember all the descent we've been talking about from through the week. Nepal's going through one. There's protests in France as well. There's protests in the UK. Did you hear about the anti-immigration protest? And why is everybody complaining about immigration across the world? I don't know, can't we be our brother's keepers? But that's beside the point. But these protests are happening across the globe. But Nigeria is not alien to protests. We know that our go-to is always, if it's not strike, it's protest. However, we find out that recently the way we protest has been curtailed.
Right.
Many will say that the people who are curtailing this protest back in the days used to be very, very good at protests themselves. So they know exactly how to counter a protest from even before it starts. Restricts them to certain areas, put mechanism in place so that they've got so much. And this picture here, this cartoon here, depicts exactly that. But high cost of fuel, bad governance, no jobs, these are everything the Nigerians are going through. That's the Nigerian populace, and that's the authority. And he's saying, if I hear FEM, I'll double it. You guys are just going to simply take it, whether you like it or not. Don't say anything, otherwise we'll give you more. We'll put more mechanism in place to keep you, sedated, perhaps, or just hush up. Nigerians are really going through a lot.
You know, this reminds me of, when we're smaller, for your parents to punish you this way means you did something. So now I'm asking, what has Nigeria done? What have we done? What has the citizens done to deserve this?
We were born here.
This we were born here. It's not a crime to be born here, but it's like we're getting more punishment than what we deserve. So let's assume we stole, the meat from the cooking pot. But still.
Yeah, exactly. Now let's move on to our next one. Good. Ethnicity, hunger, tribalism, it's Nigeria's, it's inside of us, it's innate, it's our problem. But have you noticed that these are the things that stop us from uniting? And when you have a group of people who unite, you have a voice, one voice. When you have that voice, you can move, you have movements, you can ask for accountability, you can hold your governments accountable. When you don't have that voice, when you have these divisions, you will have, people are just scattered all over the place. Now take this as Asu Rock, as Asuko puts this. And this is what we keep getting from Asu Rock, these kinds of rhetorics. And these are the people who are supposed to be asking for accountability. They don't. Why? Because we're still divided, because that's all we get from, the authorities. It's a very simple, what's it called? Keep firing, keep them at each other's throats. This is not Nepal. We're not going to let you guys dissent. You guys should just remain divided. Ask yourself a question. What brought them together in Nepal? Very interesting. Social media. Just social media. They might have been from different ethnicities, but once you touched something that they all had a common interest in, you started fire. Once social media was taken off by decree, people were like, no. I mean, especially the young generation. They're like, no, we can't have that. And they banded together. And no one's calling for a protest. No one's calling for strikes and all of that. But I think that if Nigerians came together under some forum and forget about all the ethnicities, the strife and everything we're going through, we will have that voice.
The question will be, what will be the one thing they will take from us that will make us come together?
What would it be? Football? I don't know. I'm not even going to suggest. I'm not going to suggest. I'm just asking that Nigerians actually find that one voice system and they can ask for accountability. I won't say that I believe in protests because they're damaging, and especially if you don't handle them right, especially for after, you have that problem. Most people who protest don't know how to set structures for governance.
Right.
So if you go about destroying property, these are the same property that you're still going to need your government to replace. So how does that make any sense? That's my argument. Let's do our next one, shall we, Queen? We've got another one, and I think we still got. Ooh, do we have time? Because I think we're crossing. Okay, let's do this one. Yes. Any picture that is not showing me loan or tax, I will not entertain. And we're still looking for the loan and tax online, where we're beseeching America, France. Where is that Big Ben? That's Britain. I don't know where that is, but you get the general idea. Nigeria is still on the watch out for loans, and that's all that we care about right now. But are these loans working? From our very first picture, many would say they're not seeing the results and we're only just moving the targets. But I dare say it's easier to move around in Lagos now. Lagos is a part of Nigeria.
Yeah.
So some developments are happening. I won't say more than that so that they don't come for me in the comment section after, because sometimes you guys can be very hurtful. Let me just say that. What do you think?
Again, accountability. It doesn't make sense. And, you know, looking at the picture, it's like, you know, telling us this from your soil, you know. It's like, you know, complaining of, you know, the president is never around, so you're comfortable somewhere else, and then the people looking up to you for leadership and, you know, balance of basic amenities are wondering what's going on, and you're just focused on loans. So it's a bit terrifying.
You know what you just reminded me? The president is having his leave. He's still on leave now, isn't
Working vacation.
Working vacation, and that's exactly what he's doing here. Well, it seems like this person is trying to paint here. Who's this now? This is Okpara. That's what Okpara is trying to paint here with the, you know,
the grapes.
I love it, love it, love it. Let's see another one. I think we have some more to go for the strips this morning. Good. Tinubu directs Agric Ministry to further crash food prices. How are they going to do it? I'm not even going to say much about this, but if you, by decree, want food prices to crash, how exactly do you think that they're going to attend to the issues that make them, you know, produce less? Banditry, bad roads, there's so many. What are they going to do? These are government policies being put in place, and then the average farmer is being asked to, you must maintain them. He says, I'm a Nigerian farmer, I'm not the problem here. How am I going to do this if I'm not getting help from the government? The other day, a northern governor said you should pick up arms. So I'm going to be farming, and at the same time, also protecting myself. These are civic rights. These are things that we should have: security, shelter, roads, transportation, basic amenities. But if you're asking me to fend for myself and still fend for the country, that's going to be a bit iffy now, isn't it? Do you have any thoughts on this, or should we move on to our next one?
You know, this just goes a long way. You know, most of the foods that we have here comes from the north, right?
Yeah.
And that's where we have a lot of insecurity. And of course, now we have issues in the Women Affairs Ministry because they're supposed to help women farmers. So if you're supposed to help the women farmers and then you don't have the basic paper to sign off anything, how are you really helping anybody? So at the end of the day, it's just a circle of chaos and no accountability.
I know. Do we have another one? Are we going with another one? Let's see if we have another strip. Yes, we do. Oh, my best one for today.
Is that Matrix?
It's the Matrix. I had this conversation today. Maybe there should have been a third bullet, and that would be the doctor's strike.
Right.
Because I think that one already gone past. But this is what the presidency is dealing with, and you can see something that might depict the president himself dodging these bullets. And that one says ASU strike, and then the Nupeng strike. The Nupeng one is a very interesting one. It could have crippled all of Nigeria. Might have been a worse hit than the ASU strike. The ASU strike, on and off, on and off, on and off. I don't know what. Since I was in university, Queen, we've been having this issue, and it's still there. It seems like it's not going to go away. How about we deconstruct and reform? That's my suggestion when it comes to education, from top to bottom, and I'm talking from primary to secondary. It's going to cost us, but I think at the end of the day, we need to do it. We can't help it. Regarding the Nupeng strike, it's a very delicate situation because it's one that actually positioned Nigeria and the Nigerian worker in a situation that shows the power or strength that we have. it happened inside of the oil industry, but there are lessons that other industries need to take from this, that when you band together, you actually can fight for your rights. In fact, Nigeria needs to take this. The petroleum workers had said that we're not being allowed to join unions by our employer, and that's the Dangote refinery. And to think that this was just one man who actually said all of this, and it was the Dangote refinery. They, on their side, and I mean Dangote, were trying a system where they would not be at the beck and call of these unions, and they wouldn't have to suffer through some of the issues that unions put Nigeria through. For instance, strikes. They wanted a situation where if there were any strikes with these unions, their drivers could still transport PMS across Nigeria, whether you like it or not. We need to get it there, we're going to get it there. Strikes don't affect us. However, when you do that, you are monopolizing people. You are telling them that you have no rights of association and you can't fight for your rights eventually if we impress things on you inside of this confines of this working environment. And they reached out to Nupeng. Nupeng says, no, you can't do that. There are laws. They are actual laws that says you can't stop your workers from joining unions, and that's what they were fighting for. They called for a strike, they embraced it, and they've reached a consensus. They've reached a compromise. Dangote is now saying, fine, you can join, but I'm sure that there might be a little repression coming for these drivers who chose to join. But I'm not going to say anything. All I know is that my fuel tank is full. I don't want any wahala. Please, let's continue dodging the strike. But then for the presidency, how well are they doing with these strikes? Not very well, because they keep on coming. And the issues are not absolutely being resolved. We're just kicking the can down the road and saying we'll resolve it when we get to that gutter point. And the gutter point is where we don't want to get to because it stinks. My thought on this one, thank you very much. This is Bulama for Daily Trust. I love it, absolutely. He was with us last week. He did the analysis for us, and I think this one was straight out of 2002 or so, if I'm not mistaken, for The Matrix. Beautiful one, great use of urban legend. We're having another one. They don't want us to go. Queen, we're going to do the strips, so I'll show it today. This might be the last one. 63 dead as Zulum confirms Boko Haram attack. It's been a while since we heard Boko Haram as a definite terrorist group making definite attacks, but it's happening again. Is it a resurgence? Are they coming back? We're no longer calling them just bandits. Now this is specific for Boko Haram. You can see here security budgets. This is supposed to, depict Nigerian security, but we have just blood leakages. That's where the money is going. You put it in there, it goes out there. But something that you might not have noticed is right at the right-hand end here, there are these sacks, empty sacks. And these empty sacks have names on them. There's JEG, that's Good Luck Billy Jonathan from before, and another one, Buhari, was here. And these sacks are empty. We've thrown in so much into security in Nigeria. We've done so much, we've spent so much, but yet we still have blood. And the leakages seem not to have been blocked. There's still talk of people who are sponsoring. We haven't had any punitive instances where people are punished for being associated with these groups. And I think until you do that, you will continue to have these resurgences because nobody knows who the actual perpetrators are or any of these perpetrators who might have been brought to book. If we can't see, we won't believe. That's the situation when it comes to at least what this editorial cartoon is trying to depict. I think that's it for today. Thank you very much, producers, for loading us with so many.
May the souls of all that we've lost due to insecurity rest in peace.
Yes, I know. Welcome to breakfast television. It's doom and gloom almost all the time, unfortunately. But that's why I like the editorials, to put a little humor in it, and we're able to digest it faster.
Yeah. Thank
you very much for staying with us. First 1 hour. We've still got 2 hours to go. We've got much more coming your way. Very interesting conversation here inside of Breakfast Extra. I'll join Queen now. Welcome back. It's a big story time on Breakfast Extra. Now, Nigeria's finances are back in sharp focus this morning. The Speaker of the House of Representatives, Abbas Tajuddin, has raised the alarm that our rising debt profile has reached what he calls a critical point. He said Nigeria's total public debt now stands at 149.39 trillion naira. That's about $97 billion in the first quarter of 2025 alone. That's a steep jump from 121.7 trillion naira just last year. The numbers don't just end here. Nigeria's debt-to-GDP ratio has climbed to 52%, overshooting the 40% ceiling set by our laws. Abbas warned this is a stain on fiscal sustainability, one that risks dragging us into a circle where debt servicing consumes more than healthcare, education, and the very social services citizens depend on. He called for stronger oversight, transparent borrowing, and for reforms that ensure every borrowed naira is tied to visible development. He also announced plans for a regional debt oversight framework under WAAPAC, WAPAC, aimed at harmonizing transparency across West Africa.
And citizens are feeling the weight already. Prices are climbing, services are shrinking, and future generations are staring at obligations they didn't sign up for. Oversight, the speaker reminds us, isn't just about numbers, but about the lives tied to those numbers. With us to break this down is Idris Zekeri, political activist and public affairs commentator. Idris, thank you. Good morning for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me. It's an absolute delight to share this platform. And I must say, both of you are looking wonderful this morning.
Oh, thank you.
Stop it. Don't stop. We like it.
So, Idris, let's talk about this. You know, Nigeria, there's always something. There's always something. And now when the speaker describes Nigeria's debt as at a critical point, what does that mean? What does that mean for ordinary citizens beyond the statistics?
I am delighted that the elites, for the first time, are beginning to tell themselves the truth, are beginning to have conversations that resembles truthfulness in the highest places. And this coming from the Speaker of the House of Rep is specifically something that I want to commend, but I hate to commend because he occupies a position that is supposed to ensure that we don't borrow ourselves into oblivion. Now, in 2015, I want to start from 2015 because I can't go back as far as 1999 when this democratic test. As we speak, 145 and 150 trillion naira in debt. Now, the guys borrowing this money are in their 70s, 80s, and sometimes even 90s, if you look at the actual age, not the football age. Now, the people that are going to pay this debt are not even you and I, who are in our midlife. The people that were going to pay this debt are those who are coming up, our children unborn. So the question I ask all the time when I have this kind of conversation is, who gave this men occupying position now the right to borrow on behalf of 6 months old, 2-year-old children unborn? So we are in serious trouble. Now, I'll tell you some of the things we are borrowing for now. Nigeria today is borrowing to service the debt they have already borrowed. Like, take for example, you are a salary earner. You earn a specific money a month. Now you've borrowed so much that your salary can no longer pay what you borrowed, can no longer pay the interest of what you borrowed. You are now borrowing to pay interest on money borrowed. It's difficult, but see why we are borrowing is that we are borrowing for consumption. Our politicians are getting fatter, are getting bigger. They are having bigger convoys. They are driving newer cars. They are living with a federal minister who has bought houses in Atlanta. They are buying houses in Dubai. But the poor men, the poor masses, I don't like calling people the poor masses, the citizens are shrinking. We are shrinking. Now we are asked to pay more taxes. The conversation in the last few months has been more taxes. So the question I ask is, when does this stop? Who gave the men in power today the authority to borrow on behalf of children unborn?
That's a very relevant question, Idris. I mean, yeah, they're going to be born into a system they never asked to be born into. So I understand that. Now, however, let's talk about the gains that we've been recording, or at least the gains that they tell us that Nigeria is recording. What do you think about these? Inflation falling, the Naira, well, it's still over 1,500 Naira, but they say that it's at its strongest lately. These gains, how do you think they measure up with the borrowing that Nigeria has been borrowing?
Question, and I like to answer this kind of question. The easy way to measure gain is to look at the life of the people. I don't believe in figures bandied on television and newspaper. The question I am going to ask you, our beautiful sister there, yourself, the gentleman, and citizens watching us today is your life better today than it was 10 months ago? Is your life better today than it was 10 years ago? I give you a personal example. 3 Christmas ago, from the income of my own personal expenses, I was able to give 100 bags of rice during Christmas. As I speak to you now, there is no rice in the kitchen. I mean, there's rice, but we're now buying rubber. You can no longer buy bags. And they say, okay, now the rice is cheaper, but the currency has less value today than it had 2 years ago. So these are the questions you should ask. Nigeria, I went to Lagos the other day. I like giving practical examples. I don't like too much statistics because that's what they use to deceive us. I went to Lagos the other day and I was able to drive from Igondo to Lekki in 1 hour. That should be fantastic news. Yeah. But the problem with that is that I saw a lot less cars on the road. And I asked question, what has happened? Did people leave Lagos? They say no. As soon as we went to around 800, 900, a lot of people sold their cars. A lot of people parked their cars at home. That is economic disempowerment. So we can go on, and people say, oh, there are positives. Now, when they tell you of the positives, they say we are borrowing to build infrastructures. And the question I ask you, our lady in the studio and citizens listening, is where are the infrastructure? We have moved from 44 trillion in 2015 to 150 trillion in 2025. What is different in your area? What have you seen different in your area? You still cannot travel from Benin to Abuja without reserving money for kidnappers. You still cannot travel from Benin to Akure without reserving money for kidnappers. You cannot travel Benin to Lagos. The road, the Ovia Bridge has collapsed. Now they say we are borrowing to do coastal road. There are a lot of roads in Nigeria. There is no place in Nigeria that is not connected by road, abate bad roads. Why have we not fixed those ones instead of borrowing for White Elephant project? And this is not a critique on the coastal road. I am just saying, why not? So we can go on and have this conversation. The question I always ask is, has the life of the average Nigerian changed from 10 years ago till now that we are owing 100 trillion more than we were owing 10 years ago? That is the question I want us to answer.
Wow.
So, Zekeri, you also mentioned earlier about, these loans that they take is for children unborn, and citizens are hearing
Absolutely.
that, they've taken loans in their name. But, of course, we've not seen change in roads, hospitals, or school. How can accountability be enforced, to link the borrowing to visible impact?
I will answer your question, but before answering that question, I'll make a statement. Okay. Every reckless borrowing you see today is a tax on the future. So if they take any money today, that money is going to be paid back. Maybe not by them, maybe not by us, but definitely by our children, born and unborn. So you have postponed the evil days when you borrow without plan on how to repay. That's the question. Now, to answer your question, I have always advocated for project-based budgeting. So you don't just tell me we have budgeted 1 trillion for security. You will tell me that we have budgeted 1 trillion. We are going to recruit 100 new soldiers, 100,000 new soldiers, 200,000 new policemen. We are going to equip them with so amount, and this is the amount we are going to use to feed them. There is a scandal that came out a couple of days ago where a pack of sardine was bought for almost 9,000 naira by our police. I'm quoting a reputable newspaper, Sahara Reporter, online newspaper. So that is not my words. They can go and meet Sahara Reporters to explain in details. So we know the economy is bad, but to show you how much they are borrowing to steal, people people are buying sardine at almost 9,000 naira for one in our government. We are seeing government buying yachts. We are seeing government buying bulletproof vehicles. When I say government, people should not think I am limiting it to the president alone. Our governors are equally as hopeless and helplessly corrupt as the presidency. So these are the project-based budgeting. To answer your question, project-based budgeting. You don't just say I budgeted 500 billion for roads. You say I have budgeted 50 billion for the road that will take you from Benin to Lokoja, or from Lagos to Badagry, or from Lagos to Abeokuta. Not just blank budgeting that makes it easy to steal. By the time you do project-based budgeting, as citizen, I can say, okay, 50 billion was voted for this project. Mr. Governor, where is the project?
Zekeri, let's look at alternatives. What alternative do you think Nigeria has when it comes to its not depending on borrowing, yet trying to make sure development continues? How do you think perhaps maybe Nigeria could rely or lean on PPP, private, what do you call PPP? Can't remember exactly what it's called.
Public-private partnerships.
Public-private partnerships to be able to work against this borrowing pattern we see Nigeria having here. And do you think that will work? Do you think that will not be selling Nigeria to these partners?
No, that's a fantastic question again. I usually tell people the same advice I give to individuals, which is microeconomics, is the same advice I give to nations or states. It is not the amount, it is the utilization of what you have. If what Nigeria is generating today is properly utilized, I guarantee you, so help me God, our life will be better without needing to borrow. I give you a few examples. We have custom and excise duties. It's in the billions, it's in the trillions actually, not billions. They've removed subsidy on fuel. It's in the trillions. They are having oil money. It's in the trillions. People are mining and cutting away gold, diamond, iron ore, and expensive metal from the north. It's in the trillions. If the government is honest and blocks all the loopholes surrounding these revenue sources, we do not need to borrow a kobo from anybody to meet our financial obligations. Of course, what is the financial obligations anyway? How much is our policemen be paid? I always tell people, if you pretend to pay your workers, they will pretend to work for you. If you are paying a police constable 120,000 naira and you give him a rifle to go and protect the citizen, he will use that rifle as a revenue generating tool. And that is why what we see, that is why if you go to police station in the night, POS agents are working there. Our policemen are doing everything apart from policing. You see, our police stations are as busy as microfinances banks. So this is the issue. We are pretending to run a country, and these people are pretending to be running a proper country, and they are not. So what we are saying is,
Zekeri,
you have this enough.
Zekeri, real quick.
PPP.
Thank you. Yes,
is good
PPP.
on paper.
Go ahead. Yes, that's what I want.
PPP is good on paper, but on the ground, it's usually grand deception when it is not properly planned. We have done PPP before. What is the outcome of it? Now, you can do PPP. You can do, like you build a road and you put toll on it. Fantastic. Good way to recover some of the money. But question is, what has been done in the past? By the time you give it to politicians, instead of giving it to proper experts who can run it and make it profitable, you shoot yourself on the foot. And that's what we've had. PPP is fantastic. I support it. But the problem is that we have very dishonest individuals occupying positions of power.
Well, Zekeri, I want to say thank you very much. A very interesting input that you put here inside of this conversation. I haven't seen it the way that you put it before, but it's very, and I can see your passion shine through for this, these matters. So my takeaway from this is a very humorous point that you made about the Nigerian police stations as they work as microfinance banks at night. That blew me away. We had a little snigger behind the cameras here, myself and Queen. Zekeri, we will continue to follow this, and hopefully we'll continue to have you on as a discussant for these subjects. But one final advice, and a short one, for Nigeria when it comes to these excesses in borrowing, please.
I think our leaders have to repent and give their life to Christ. For those who believe in, who are Christians should give their life to Christ. Those who are not Christians should say 1,000 Astaghfirullah in the middle of their parlor. And let us now join hands together and run a proper country. We cannot continue to deceive ourselves. That is one. To the citizens, we must pay closer attention to the way government business is run. If you continue to stay aloof, very soon the end will come home to roost. And one of the end coming home to roost now is the new tax policy for January 1st. By the time you start paying your money to a government that is not accountable to you, I believe you will take more interest in government business. And like I usually ask, you go vote, Abi, you no go vote. The question is up to you to answer.
Zekeri, on that ominous note, we say thank you.
Thank you.
And we look forward to having you again for another conversation. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. Thank you.
That sounded very ominous. That sounded very like, oh, scary. Yeah. It's like we're in a training, we're heading for a dead end and there's no track after that.
Right. Sardine is 9,000 naira.
Say again now?
Sardine is 9,000.
Oh, yeah, depending who's buying.
All I can say
depending on who's buying.
I forgive them.
You forgive them when? It's a running joke. If you were with us earlier, you wouldn't get it, but it's a running joke. But tell you what, let's go on a break. We've got more conversation. We've got 1/2 of an hour inside this hour, but this is the middle point for the show. We've still got more coming your way. Stay tuned.
Of course, you're still watching Breakfast Extra, and this is Wellness Central. Today, we're digging into something we all take for granted, but perhaps don't do as well as we think. Teaching hygiene to kids and setting them up for healthy habits that last a lifetime. A recent article by Use Compare says that instilling good hygiene in children, especially before age 10, is about more than just washing hands or brushing teeth. Young children encounter germs everywhere. When parents teach them properly how to wash between fingers, under the nails, use toothpaste with fluoride, bathe well, maintain nails, cover mouth and nose when sneezing, they're protecting them from infections now and helping them build immune strength for the future.
Beyond those basics, as children grow older, hygiene needs get more complicated. Change dirty clothes often, wash beddings regularly, manage body changes in puberty, take care of hair and scalp health, and even maintain digital device hygiene. Also, good eating practices, washing produce and ensuring food is cooked well. These are all part of it. Parents are central in modeling these behavior, being consistent, patient, and also celebrating the small wins so kids don't feel shamed or scared. So to help us unpack this, we have Dr. Yusuf Haroon in the building, founder of the Love for Health organization. You are welcome once again with your very interesting regalia.
Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure.
It's always a pleasure to have him here because we always look forward to what he's going to wear today. And today he came in his love agbada. Let's go with that.
Love for health.
Customized. Doctor, good to have you again.
Thank you very much.
Early hygiene. There's so much that we have to unpack here because it changes as the child grows. It's a different kind of tutelage from when they're babies, a different kind when they're preteens, a different kind when they're teens, and then they can carry on from there. It's their business. But what must parents know when it comes to especially the very early stages of a child's life? What must you teach them when it comes to their personal hygiene?
This is a very important question, and there are 3 interesting facts about the hygiene and something relating to body odor. The first thing is that when a child is born, they don't usually have anything that smells like body odor. It's usually coming from one of these glands. We have 3 glands on the body. We have the eccrine gland. Everybody has it all over the body, and that's where the sweat comes. It's a sweat gland, and we sweat from it. Sweat itself is not what causes the body odor or causes the unhygiene. The sweat is there to regulate our body temperature. That's why when we are running, we are walking, or when there's heat, we produce sweat. There's the second one. That's the one that is associated with the unhygienic or the body odor we have, and that's the apocrine gland. That one is concentrated more under our armpits and in the private area. The apocrine gland is more active or starts to develop during puberty. That's why boys and girls during their puberty stage, they tend to have a kind of body odor.
Yeah, I smell like wet dog.
Absolutely.
True.
Now, Mazino, who do you think has more of it, the boys or the girls? Is the male?
Because there's an evolutionary reason why we actually have it, and this I learned. It's very strange.
You are
that
absolutely
women
right.
actually are supposed to be attracted to that smell.
That is just it.
But I like to know that the worse I smell, the more attractive I should be to a woman.
Wait.
I don't think I'm going to be using body deodorant anytime soon.
And this is more in animals. They have the ones called pheromones.
For the female folk.
Yes. It's also used like to attract mates. But this apocrine gland, it releases sweat. Even that is not what causes the smell or the odor. It's the bacteria on the skin that digests this fat, because the apocrine gland releases fat and the sweat. So when it digests it, it tends to smell, because bacteria normally decompose, not only on the skin, even in the mouth.
Okay.
If the bacteria is in the mouth, if one doesn't brush well,
So how does it relate to children, to early hygiene?
Yes, in children now, you need to make sure that these children maintain proper hygiene, regular washing, regular taking of their baths. They can use antiperspirants, because if they don't...
Children can use antiperspirants?
They are mild ones you can
Mild
use.
ones.
And I'm talking about those in puberty.
Oh, okay. Okay.
That's why I said that. It's in the apocrine gland, develops more in the puberty stage.
So I'm sorry, Queen. I just want to really be very definitive here. So now there is that smell that comes with puberty, which you're suggesting that children should be aware of, have proper body hygiene practices and all. But babies are not that aware. When we're born, there's this myth that they tell that if a person has body odors because he wasn't bathed well as a child.
That's a fallacy.
That's a fallacy.
Absolutely.
So that is
out of the way.
Out of the way now. But do children, children also, especially after they've played all day, they also have this very interesting smell as well.
Yes.
This is before puberty. Is it the same kind of bacteria that...
Now, this is the third gland I'm coming to.
Oh, good.
This is the sebaceous gland.
Okay.
This releases sebum. That also has fat. That one is not in the armpits. It's not just concentrated in the armpits or genital area. We also have that where hair grows. In children, they can have even hair growing on their head. Also, even these sweat glands, which I talked about, the eccrine glands, if it stays too long on the skin, children go to play ball, and the bacteria digest it, it tends to smell.
Okay.
In addition to it, it's not even only the sweat that smells. I'm happy we are talking of hygiene. Some children don't maintain proper sanitary hygiene. Maybe they just poo or they pee and they haven't cleaned themselves. They may not brush their teeth well. Also, that also can give odor. So the odor is not even coming only from the skin or from sweating.
Coming from different orifices in the body.
Different orifices from the body. Different orifices. Now also, going back to the puberty stage, there are other things that can be associated with odor. In boys, we've talked about it, the sweat. In women also, that's when they have what we call menarche, the first menstrual cycle. That also, a woman has to be trained well how to maintain proper hygiene, because that could also be associated. Do you know what we eat also can lead to body odor, also lead to poor hygiene?
Please tell us.
Yes. I don't want to be racial, but there are some races that take more of spicy food. And when they sit next to you...
In the plane, in the airplane.
I won't mention the race so that we don't, but yeah. Now, a particular race, they take lots of spicy food. And because of that, they smell like the spice, or like onions and garlic specifically.
Yeah.
So there's a common saying that you are what you eat. Food containing high sulfur, they tend to produce more of body odor.
But there's a saying that garlic is good for you.
It's good, but some eat raw. Raw garlic could be offensive to some people.
But is raw garlic good for your body or not?
I would prefer to eat it cooked. Yeah, but some fruits or some vegetables, you can take them raw.
Yeah.
Yes, it's good for the body.
So this translates from out the body, these foods. Are you saying that it actually smells from out the body, or is it just only orally?
Even from out of the body too. They're digested and they are perceived out of the body.
So for kids, what tools do we, or mechanisms do we use to make sure, to ensure that they are practicing proper body hygiene? Now let's start from kids from say 0 to preteen.
I remember when we were kids in even primary school, we were always taught to wash our hands regularly. Washing the hands is so important. Even it prevents infection and prevents oral transmission of microorganisms. So regular hygiene is very important. We can't overemphasize that. The kids should make sure they maintain proper hygiene. They should always take their bath. Usually, a kid should take his or her bath twice a day. In the morning when they wake up, because, do you know, on the bed where we sleep even, thousands of dead cells are there. Have we asked ourselves, even when we clean our towel, when these kids and adults, when we even clean our body after taking our bath, thousands of dead cells are also shed. And this towel, which looks clean because we are just taking our bath, it has thousands of dead cells. So we are advised to even wash our towel regularly.
How often? How regular?
Some even say 3 to 5 days. Regularly. Change your towel. Yeah, that's why in Airbnb, in hotels, even they have stacks of towels daily. Even if you are going to rent that hotel for a week, they have like 7 days. Each day you use a towel and you dispose.
As a child, I remember using one towel for an entire holiday season. An entire holiday.
So diet is also very important for kids, particularly in their developmental age. It could also maintain good hygiene. It could also prevent them from having body odor and having them healthy. Very, very important. Then also playing safe. We should always encourage kids to maintain safe practices. Boys are the ones, again, at this. They play ball, they run, they enjoy. There was one boy I know when we were kids, it was called Ego United. Ego, that is lots of wounds on the body. That is also a poor hygiene, and that could also result into predispose him to infections, tetanus, and all sorts of.
So, you know, Nigeria now, I think back then, either the dad is working and then the mom is staying home, but now everybody's working. Even the dog in the house has a job, you know. So what kind of safe routine do you think parents can embed to, you know, make sure that the children have hygiene, knowing fully well that, you know, it's a very busy household, you wake up as early as 4 and everybody's out. So how do you think, you know, what routine can they put in place?
Now, I'm not saying that we should be completely sterile, like when you say sterile, like there should be no exposure to...
It's even impossible.
It's highly impossible. So there's even an advice that some kids, or kids generally, should be exposed to physical activities, exposed to men, boys, even girls, exposed to the field, exposed to things around. This will boost their immunity and it wouldn't make them fall sick easily. So my advice is still on hygiene. I will keep maintaining hygiene. After you've been exposed to all forms of activities, you go to school. In school, you are meeting many people. Some will cough. Some of them will put their hand on their nose with mucus and they will shake your hand with it.
And touch your shit.
They would eat with it. So hygiene is broad. Washing your hands, taking your bath immediately after school. Kids, they can even take their bath 3 times. Immediately they come from school, take their bath, wash their clothes, make sure their clothes are clean. Wash their spoon before they eat, and when they are going to bed also, change their clothes and take a bath. Brush their teeth also twice a day. These are part of it. Some kids bite themselves. I know of somebody who contracted infection just because one kid bit another one. Yes, we have some oral bacteria in our mouth and our teeth, and this oral bacteria, if it gets inside the blood, it could cause severe infection. Yes.
That's very interesting.
Yes.
Now, you mentioned schools, and I have a daughter, so it's of great concern, and she says she doesn't like using the bathroom in schools. We did a personal inspection. We noticed very random. We noticed that the toilets are clean, but she's just very conscious. She just doesn't want to. And it made me ask or think about this now regarding hygiene where there's no supervision, like in schools. How do we teach children, what do we teach them to look out for when it comes to the use of convenience, like toilets? And what kind of diseases could be passed through? There was a case, not my daughter's school now, I'm not going to tell which one, but where children were having these rash behind their thighs, like their sitting area. And parents were like, my daughter's got this. Oh, your daughter too? Oh, my daughter's got this. Where is it coming from? One thing in common, they're in the same class. So that's, and from what I hear, it was a very stubborn infection to get rid of. It wasn't life-threatening, or at least to us it didn't seem so, but they say that it would remain and reoccur after many weeks. What was that? How can they watch out for that?
Yes, it's scary, but one of these rash you talked about is pathognomonic of herpes. It's sad that a child should develop herpes. Herpes zoster rash, herpes rash, varicella rash, these types of rashes, they are viral infection and they reoccur and they are contacted through close proximity. It's not only intimacy, it's not only sexual contact. That's why even people who have never been exposed to sex, even virgins can develop some infections relating to the genitals. We call some of these urinary tract infections, UTI. Now, from what you have described, the history, a patient, one of the children who had contacted this infection, either from his or her home, either an adult had this infection at home, maybe that one had it through sexual infection, sat on the water closet, WC, did everything without cleaning properly. The child also sat on it, and that child got exposed to it. Some of them are skin to skin. That's why even some, when we are going into intimacy sexual, we say it's not all infections, sexual transmitted infections that are prevented by condom. Some, just skin to skin contact can give a life worrying infection.
Wow.
So some people in the United States also have this kind of problem, herpes and things like that, and they reoccur and they have these blister-like rashes around the genitals. So some of them use medications. They are orals and they are also topicals, which they apply there.
So what must kids do to...
Yes, hygiene again. What they have to do is, anybody, if you want to use a water closet, especially if it is a public one, like you go to a hotel, at the airport, in the school, in a public place, in an office, you should make sure you clean it. I know of some ladies, they have their personal antiseptic bottle. Izal, Dettol, anyone, not marketing for anybody, but just get an, even if it is a liquid soap, clean the place, get a tissue. They clean that place well and they wash it with water. They make sure it is clean. Like they are clean, they'll take their time to clean it well before they sit. Some people don't even sit. Some people try to find a way not to squat over it. But the most important thing, again, I will overemphasize is hygiene. Then there's another thing that could save some people. Not everybody's lucky in that, but it's genetics. Some people genetically, they are more susceptible to diseases and infection and things like that. You know, some people never catch HIV, even if it is infectious.
Right in front of their eyes.
Yes,
even if they're actually
their receptors are not favorable to it. Some people may not get some infections, others can. Some people, I know of couples who have been married and one is still negative for hepatitis and the other is positive, and they have children. Some things are mysterious, but genetics, for example, in this body odor we are talking about, or one of the things is, some people again have a genetic composition called ABC111, so they do not smell. Some people don't smell.
They'll just be proud and rude.
They don't smell. And many people, mostly in Europe and Africa, have these ones that, maybe because they are more hairy, some in the southeastern part of Asia. Chinese, Korean, some don't. But one might sit down next to those people and the kind of things you perceive might still be
offensive.
Yes, maybe their diet, maybe one other things or the other.
Right.
Now, are you saying that they are incapable of smelling? No. Or you mean?
Body odor.
Okay.
So they can't have
They don't have, yes, that's apocrine gland that secretes fat and sweat, which the bacteria digests and produces odor.
Okay. But it's possible for them to smell based on their diet?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
And it's not all of them.
Oh. That's very interesting.
I have to see, so what kind of food, apart from garlic and spices, can we eat?
That's what I said. She's a chef as well.
Oh, nice.
And I like cooking with garlic, so what do you think?
I knew you were going to come back there.
I advise to cook with the garlic.
Yes.
Cook. The ones that smell most are those that eat it raw.
Yeah, but some people, again, I have an aunt that swallows garlic in the morning. Trust me, to say good morning sometimes, it's like, I know.
That is the
But
effect.
she said it's good for your body.
Yes, but again, in life, you have to strike a balance between what is good for your body and what is good for the environment.
Sorry,
Dr. Haroon, it's very interesting that we're having this conversation about hygiene and that children are involved here. From my takeaway, this is what I would advise. I think that every child should be able to, we should teach children much about their hygiene and have a special kit, especially for using bathrooms, especially in schools, public bathrooms. I wouldn't, the only public place I think they'd go to school. Having that kit, like you said, should help them, disinfect areas that they feel that they're going to be touching, even regularly disinfecting your hands and washing your hands like we had with the, if anything, the coronavirus, if there was anything that it taught us was good hygiene. Everybody started washing their hands 10 times more.
Before 2020, I had a friend who, back in the States, if we went to the supermarket or we left the house, coming back,
always had hand sanitizer.
You wash your phone, you wash your hand, you change your clothes. So we had a seat where you sit when you come back from the supermarket. You cannot sit in the proper. I'm like,
that's a bit much, though.
See, so when 2020 came, I'm like, oh, is it that you saw this in your drink before this?
Also,
it's crazy.
Also, Nigeria can do this if we have the will to do political will. I was in Germany, and in the US, they have this automation. When you go to the restroom, after leaving, automatically everything cleans up.
Yes, yeah.
So you can really contact infection there.
Yes.
Some, it will even wash the water closet within 5 to 10 minutes.
Yes.
Ultra wash with chemicals, with detergent,
mostly
antiseptic.
At the airports and all.
Yes, and dries immediately.
A lot of people going through.
Well, we don't have that liberty here in Nigeria. We're still borrowing.
There's a particular center.
Still borrowing for Lagos Highway.
In Japan, they have one that once you pee or you do the other one, it tests to know if you are ill, so that you can rush to the hospital.
No,
it's like the urine strip, like the normal lab test, like the lab test. Some people will be scared to do it. They don't want to.
Yeah, that's very intrusive.
It will let you know your urine status, if you are diabetic, if you have any liver damage. Yes, I'm happy to say this also. Another thing that causes this poor body odor and things like that is health condition. Some people who have severe diabetes, they have this kind of smell coming out from them, and that's another way a doctor can know that, oh, please, you need to take care of your health. I heard that about
adults, but can we see
liver
the same thing in children?
Yes.
Children also?
Children also. I have seen children in pediatric wards with liver damage, with diabetes. I'm even starting a documentary with a mother. A child died of diabetes. Femi, she wants me to mention her son's name, so I'm mentioning it here. Femi, the child died in the UK. Very intelligent boy. He died of type 1 diabetes. So children also, there's rarely a disease we have in adulthood, maybe except breast cancer. Even breast cancer, 25-year-old girls are diagnosed with breast cancer now. You don't need to be old. Maybe the only one I've not seen is prostate cancer for children.
I totally forgot. I don't know if this is part of it, but do forgive me, producers, but I was going to touch on processed foods. Or refrigerated foods for children, these kinds of things, how we might get poisoning from there, and how mothers, real quick, please.
Yes, my answer to it is yes.
And stored foods.
Yes.
Like breast milk.
This type of food, breast milk, there's adult breast milk that are stored. Well, this type of food can also have effects on the health, because this processed food, in McDonald's, where I used to go to eat and things like that, you notice that when you buy some of these foods and you keep it for a week, it doesn't get spoiled, even without the fridge. That means there are some chemicals there they are using to preserve it. And these chemicals also can have negative effects in our body system. So yes, this processed food can have effects on our health, and it can worsen it.
And refrigerated food, how long should I keep refrigerated food for throwing it out?
No, refrigerated foods, I was also on a tour, and I went to one company, big company in USA, and the manager there told me that they can refrigerate food for 3 years. Chips that they use in their fast food, they keep it in their freezer for 3. They are a warehouse where they keep it for 3 years.
Comes out fresh.
And comes out fresh. In quote, fresh, but definitely there's something going on. It's like refrigerating a dead body for that long.
It will still decompose, albeit that it's very
Well, I do say, for example, if you put your bread in the freezer, when you bring it out, it stays fresh. I have to say that one.
Really?
Yes.
I will try that because I have a problem with my
Because
bread.
I don't eat bread as much, so if I buy a loaf of bread, it lasts me pretty like a
Thank you,
month
Chef Queen.
plus.
Dr. Haroon, Dr. Love,
always a
thank you very
pleasure.
much.
Dr. Cupid, give you a new name today.
Thank you very much for giving us the
you.
details that you have shared with us today. Hopefully parents out there are taking sample or example and making sure that their kids know very well about their personal hygiene from earlier on, so they take this all into adulthood. We've got one more hour inside of Breakfast Extra. Do stay with us. More conversation to come. Morning again. My name is Mazino Apil, and here are the headlines inside of Breakfast Extra. We begin with health matters, where the Nigeria Association of Resident Doctors has suspended its 5-day warning strike 2 days after it began. The association has also given the federal government an additional 2-week ultimatum to meet its demands. The doctors had downed tools on Friday morning but suspended the action on Saturday night, with members directed to resume work today, Sunday. The president of the association, Dr. Tokpe Osundara, disclosed this in a WhatsApp message on Saturday. In politics, In Rivers State, the countdown has begun to the end of 6 months of the emergency rule imposed by President Bola Tinubu. With just a few days left before it expires, preparations are now underway for a return to democratic governance. As part of the transition, an interdenominational Thanksgiving service holds today, September 14th. In a statement signed by the Secretary to the State Government, Professor Idibia Worika, invitations were extended to council chairmen, security and paramilitary chiefs, traditional rulers, members of boards and governing councils, captains of industry and top government officials. The River State Administrator is expected to attend as special guest of honor. To Edo State, where despite heavy rainfall, members of the People's Democratic Party turned out in large numbers on Saturday to elect ward executives and delegates across 192 wards. The exercise, monitored in parts of Benin City, was peaceful and well attended. State Caretaker Chairman Tony Azegbemi praised members for their resilience, calling the turnout a sign of the party's growing strength. The Ward Congress Electoral Committee, led by Tariga Tulaga, commended the unity and discipline shown during the process. Now, Tulaga dismissed claims of internal division, saying the smooth voting process reflected party cohesion. In more news, in Abia, following a recent protest of some natives of Nsulu community in Isiala, Ngwa South, local government area of the state, over non-payment of compensation for their lands being used for airport construction, the government has promised to complete the payment in due course. Abia state government, however, says it has paid compensation to the landowners of the Abia airport project. The government representatives who visited the community pointed out that those omitted might have been exceptional cases. Some members of the community said they were not properly informed about government's programs, expressing hope that the latter will keep to its words.
Complain about what we did last time. I was expecting you people to punish the traditional ruler. He was the first person that caused this problem. You gave him the money you gave him to censor his people. Up till now, he have never called a meeting for even one day, the community leaders. See the project that is coming. People saw it surprisingly. So hold him accountable for what happened there.
That is an exception which we deal with on a case-by-case basis. And this was our clear communication to the people. We're a listening government. So when our people talk, we listen. That's why we're on ground, ascertaining the complaints that have been made and giving the assurances that anyone, for whatever reason, who hadn't been paid are not giving that double assurance that those payments will be made.
It's not that they have not been paid, but some of them have challenges with either the accounts or maybe they have not completed the mandatory indemnity certificate that will enable them get paid. We also had complaints about the clearing of areas that are not enumerated. And we discovered that that is human error by one of the tractor operators, and of course that has been corrected.
To a rather sad one now in Lagos, where one person has been confirmed dead following the collapse of a 3-story building in Alagomeji in the Yaba area of the state. The National Emergency Management Agency, in its 2-day incident report on Saturday, said the body of a male victim was recovered from the rubble during ongoing search and rescue operations. While the Lagos State Fire Service reported that 8 construction workers had been rescued from the site of the collapsed building, the collapse has once again raised concerns about the integrity of buildings under construction in Lagos, where several such incidents have claimed lives in recent years, despite repeated government warnings and enforcement drives. And that's all the headlines for this hour. Do stay with us. Breakfast Extra continues.
Welcome to the big story, another big story on Breakfast Extra. Across Nigeria today, the cost of survival feels heavier than ever. Citizens are not just battling inflation that has eaten deep into purchasing power, they are also squeezed by numerous taxes on nearly every corner of their lives, from consumer levies to value-added tax to duties on goods and services. The Nigerian household faces an ever-expanding tax net. The question is, in an economy already under strain, how much more can citizens realistically bear? Critics argue that this government has leaned heavily on taxation as its revenue model, echoing the Tinubu playbook from his days as governor of Lagos, where aggressive revenue generation became the cornerstone of governance. But unlike then, today's Nigerians are facing record inflation, shrinking wages, and an economy where the basics, food, transport, healthcare, are slipping beyond reach. While the state collects, many say citizens are left with little to show in return.
Nigerians are asking if taxes are funding development at all or simply deepening poverty. What consideration is given to the people's plight in the face of the unrelenting push for revenue? To help us unpack the economic, politics, and human cost of Nigeria's tax regime, we're being joined by Yinka Ogunnubi, economist and corporate finance expert. Yinka, you're welcome. Good to have you for your first outing here on Breakfast Extra.
Away from the place at
Away from the place at the table.
Good to be here. My first time on.
Yes, indeed. So I will warn you. It's a bit of levity here. So
yeah.
You know, we talk. We just simply talk. There's no breakfast, even if it's extra.
No, I have coffee here. It's fine.
Oh, grand. That's all we can offer you. We're on a strict budget.
For now.
Well, listen. I was the other day having, I think it was on the island, and then my receipt was brought to me, and then somewhere under there's actually a consumption tax.
Yes.
So many taxes that we're, going through. And like we told from the beginning, many people have said that these taxes, it just reminds you of old Lagos. Nigeria has now become that place where to make more money, if we're not borrowing, the citizens, you're all going to have to pay for it. So is this a regular system? Is this a normal system? Is this how it applies in other climes? Or are we just being, a bit too recalcitrant and say, I was there now?
All right. It's a bit of both. And, today in Nigeria, people are not debating luxury. They are debating survival. And so the issue of taxes and inflation and, a lot of all these things have become almost like dinner table conversations. And so it's just prompting a lot of all these comparisons that we see. Okay, is this what is happening in other countries and all that? And the truth about it is that, yes, in developed countries, there's a whole lot of taxation going on. But the reality is that the taxes are there, but you can almost see what the taxes are for.
Dividend.
And so because of that, the people are not necessarily I know they complain, but they're not necessarily so much, agitated by it because the taxes are there, the social safety nets are there, the transportation systems are there, and so you just feel, okay, this is my role. What you have today in Nigeria, again, like I said, it's not a question of people, trying to debate, can I afford this, can I afford that? It's about survival. It's about, can I afford to buy food? Okay, can I afford to buy fuel? Can I afford to pay for medicine? Can I afford to make sure that I send my kids to school? That is the level of conversation today. And when you are at survival level conversations, it's not something that you begin to now wonder. It goes beyond rationality. And that is the level to which Nigerians are dealing with right now.
So, we're here again. I think for me, I need an explanation, right? Like you mentioned, you saw a tax right under, so you went to the restaurant, right? And then there's
the audacity to have it on the receipt, first of all.
It's always there. And of course, then they're talking about fuel. And then if you buy things from people who import, they will add tax there. Or you buy an outfit from a boutique, there's tax there.
Don't forget, come January, where it's been speculated, there's also that tax
for fuel. Exactly. And of course, you buy anything imported, there's tax. And then they said there's going to be personal income tax. So you earn a certain amount, they'll take tax from it.
Sure.
They will now take tax from, you say, let's you buy something from people imported, they take tax. And knowing fully well that the country will also take tax from those people importing. So can they just take one tax?
Yeah, the case of double taxation.
Yes, because now you're paying all taxes everywhere. So what's left? So for me, the question is it making sense? Like, help me make sense of, the taxation everywhere. Because if you're taking...
That boils on the transparency of all these taxes.
So that's what the government tried to do with this new tax act that was just
please explain.
Passed, the Nigeria Tax Act.
Right.
So Nigeria has, we're supposed to have a progressive tax system, but in practice, sometimes it's regressive. So what has happened over the years, many years, is that there have been so many taxes. So you have your personal income tax, for instance, which is, you will see it as the payee and things like that. That is collected by the state. You have certain taxes that are collected by the federal government, withholding tax, companies' income tax, capital gains tax. You have taxes, you mentioned taxes on imports. I'm pretty sure you're talking about the 4% that was just charged, which is not a tax, actually it's a levy.
It's very weird because it's like, I think there's already the tax in there.
It's a levy.
A levy.
Yeah, it's a levy, but it's also another way of generating revenue. And what even makes that even more funny is because it is the government transferring the cost of collection, which they should bear to importers.
With the loans they collect.
To the importers, and the importers will basically transfer that to consumers. So the tax laws, there are many tax laws. And by law, the way it is, and the way the law is, the law will not tell you that pay your tax and I'll give you X, Y, Z. It just says pay your tax 0, and that's it. And so what they tried to do with the Nigeria Tax Act was to harmonize all these types, because there's so many of them, okay? And if you look at the fact that Nigeria is a federalist state, it's a federalism in which you have the federal government, and then you have the state government, and then you have the local government, all sharing power. So you have what you call the exclusive list, the concurrent list, the residual list. And on all these things, there are things that the federal government can legislate on, the state government can legislate on. So essentially, the federal government can impose tax, the state government can impose tax, the local government can impose tax. So that was the situation that we had before. Yeah. So with the Nigeria Tax Act, they tried to harmonize that to have it in one document where we can then reduce the number of taxes collectible by the federal, the state, and the local government. So there can be one tax, but I guess what they're trying to do is reduce the number of taxes. I mean, at some point it was about almost 60 different taxes. Trying to reduce it
I got a question here that's going to
as much as
break
possible.
This place at the table. The question is, now I make money, New Central pays me, I get deductions there, but there are other people who, work in this system, not this system as in New Central, but I mean generally, who their means of making money is void of any interaction with federal or state apparatus. They're not being taxed. How does this capture these groups of people?
So that's where the government needs to be a lot more creative.
Is this why they're about to tax our accounts, for instance?
No. That's not the reason. That's not the reason they're about to tax your
account. So explain to
us. I don't think they're going to tax your account, but so what they're trying to do is this. They believe that a lot of Nigerians are not paying their due taxes. And when I say taxes, I mean their personal income taxes. And that's because the system in place right now is able to capture people like you that work with New Central, like me, myself, because we work in formal...
Sorry.
No, I don't. Go on. I don't. That work in formal establishments, okay, because you have a payroll, you know, and all that, and so they can capture you because you work in a formal environment.
Right.
They can't capture the informal guys because they don't have the mechanism of doing so. So they're trying to be creative to say, okay, if I can't capture you, I can go through your account, for instance, and I can see, for instance, okay, all the inflows that you have that's going to your account, and you have to come and justify, and then I assume that, okay,
you're making
from all this, there's a tax bracket, and you should be paying this amount to the government.
Is that Joe?
Or whatever. So, I mean, my advice, and I tell people that if you use that, if you do that, that as much as possible, don't use an account as collection point for anything, okay? From January next year.
Okay.
If you do, make sure the description is very clear.
Okay.
Of what it is, Ajo, cooperative, whatever. Because if it is not, they will assume it is income to you, and it is tax deductible. So the reality here is that the government needs to be a lot more creative in expanding the tax net. I have friends, you know, some of them will be looking at me today and say that, better don't mention my name, that earn lots of money every year. I mean, when I say lots of money, in the millions, and they don't pay tax because they're not in a formal system, and they slip through the cracks. And so the reality is that if everybody is paying their fair share of tax, like you and me, and believe me, you're paying more tax than some presidential candidates.
Yeah,
I can bet you. If everybody's paying their fair share of tax, maybe the revenue will come more to government, because really the government has a big revenue issue.
Okay.
And then maybe this pressure to tax the people who are already overtaxed would not be there.
All right, now, I'm sorry, I should...
No. See, just go on.
So, now, if you want to take care of the system of collection, let's say we have that settled. But what about the visible developments to these monies that are being collected? How can we, as the ones who are paying these tax, hold government accountable to the transparency of the collection and also visibility of these projects that they tell? How can we tell that this is what my tax is paying for, this is what my tax is paying for? I will give it to, well, Nigeria currently. I drove from the mainland here to the island the other day in 30 minutes in what should have been rush hour. That was never possible. The road networks are getting better.
Yeah.
But how much more do they need to do to make citizens see that we are actually working with the monies that we collect from you?
A friend of mine, a week ago...
You have so many friends, by the way.
A friend of mine, a week ago, sent me a screenshot of a flyer sent to him by a council bureau in the UK that explained that for every £1,000, what it was used for in terms of healthcare, in terms of childcare, in terms of development and things like that.
Detailed breakdown.
And I asked myself, this is what we should expect, either at the local government level or at the state level. We should know what, for every 1,000 of our money, is 100 naira going here, it's 200 naira going there, and things like that. And to get there, Nigerians have to learn to ask questions. For instance, today, there's a whole lot of money going to state government. People don't understand, people don't realize that when the federation account is put together, a lot more in terms of net allocation is going to state, when you add state plus local government together, than it's going to the local.
We see more development when it comes to federal projects than we do state.
Because there's a whole lot of scrutiny on federal. So a lot of people are looking at federal, because federal knows that it is the big brother, everybody is looking at it. It's a bit more transparent.
So the leakages are in the states.
The leakages are in the state, and there's a lot of money going to states. If I tell you that there's no state in Nigeria today that has not collected at least $1 trillion since 2011.
Wow.
It's a lot of money going to them.
Put me to sleep.
Welcome to breakfast television.
What I will advise is that there are tools out there. I mean, there's a civil organization called Budget, for instance, that does this analysis every year called States of State. And it's very detailed with infographics and all that tells you how much the state collects, what it's used for, and all that. And Nigerians we need to use these tools,
right?
All right, and make sure that the governors are held to account.
Yeah, you had one there, one in the chamber.
It's just, so for me is, what would you say that the government needs to do? Because the thought of tax coming in January is terrifying. You know, we're talking about light, road, fuel, diesel. It's always something for Nigerian, you know, and then some households have 5 kids, 4 kids, 7 kids. I'm happy for all of them, but what would you say to the government? How can they find a center? And then how can they become transparent to the citizens as well and say, you know what, we're using this tax, or the reason why we need this tax is to do this. So what would you say is best to put all this in place?
Question is loaded.
You see why I said that? You're putting me to sleep.
You had to take that time from before.
It's loaded. You know, the president said, let the poor breed, right?
Yeah, that's choking us. You know, the funny thing, hold that thought. When you keep talking about taxes, you keep doing this, and it has that feeling of people being choked. But
the president says, let the poor breed, but when you look at the aggressiveness to which they've gone, you know, on this revenue drive, you wonder that, are they really breathing, or they are actually struggling to survive? We need to be able to balance the need for revenue generation. We have a government that's very keen on increasing revenue. I mean, the president also said that we're looking at a $1 trillion. They are trying to target a $1 trillion economy in 2030. That's 5 years from now.
Right.
And we're growing at somewhere around 3.4% of GDP. To achieve that, I mean, and currently we're around $240 billion of GDP. So to get to 1 trillion in 5 days, I mean, we're going to have to work like 5 times. So we are looking at a GDP of somewhere around 20-25% every year. And so, and for me, I don't know how that is possible unless you want to really drive the economy, you know, in such a way that people are essentially squeezed. So there's going to be, there has to be a bit of balance. Now, I know that they've tried to do some things. For instance, in VAT, they've exempted some categories of items from VAT. Basic food items is exempted. Pharmaceutical stuff is exempted. Educational stuff, books, exempted, some CNG-related stuff. They've tried to look at that to say, okay, maybe we can, you know, when we exempt this, it will reduce.
I hate to put this in because it's going to further elongate the time we're spending on this conversation. But when you're exempting VAT, when you're exempting from these commodities or these items, the prices themselves are still going up. You're exempting from CNG. CNG users are telling that the price is going up. You're exempting from books, educational. You're changing the curriculum and making sure that parents are buying new books.
So that's the problem, you know, that you have these exemptions or these zero-rated VATs.
And then other mechanisms.
But then there's inflation, and that's the other side of it. In fact, I consider inflation as a silent tax, because what it does is that it reduces your purchasing power, your affordable income, and you're not able to do things. So yes, there's no VAT on school fees, there's no VAT on basic food items, but processed food is still VAT chargeable. School fees are not VAT, but the school fees are increasing because of inflation. So whatever it is that you are taking out in terms of these exemptions,
how
inflation is bringing it back. So I mean, it comes down to, like I said again, Nigerians are not talking about luxury, we're talking about survival. And the question is, what do people need to survive? You know, do you want them to cut their meals? Do you want them to cut their medical expenses? No. So the responsibility has to fall on government to really make sure that these exemptions that they say are implemented, but also balance the need for increase in revenue to making sure that there's social safety net for people so that they don't actually just die, literally just die in the attempt to survive in this economy.
Well, you know, this is like an eye-opener because, you know, there's so much I can read, and then having an economist having to explain it for us and the viewers. Thank you so much, Dr. Yinka, right?
No, I'm not Dr.
Oh, see, I'm already giving you.
Not yet.
Thank you, Mr. Yinka, for joining us this morning and just giving us an insight as to what Nigerians should expect. I feel like at the end of the day, Nigerians should just speak up.
Brace up, you mean?
Brace up, and we will let you breathe.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right, we have one last conversation, and then it'll be over for Breakfast Extra. Stay with us. You're going to love this one. Welcome back again, and it's Focus Africa on Breakfast Extra. Let's talk about Nepal. In Nepal, a wave of protests led by young people, Gen Z in particular, always shook the foundations of power. These protests, sparked by demands for transparency, accountability, and deeper electoral reform, are not just about politics, they're about reclaiming the future. Nepal's new prime minister rose to office on the back of this discontent. With young voices, or these young voices were demanding a system that listens to them and not just the old political elite. For Africa, this story rings familiar. Across our continent, young people make up the majority, yet too often feel shut out of political and economic decision-making. The Gen Z protest in Nepal highlights the power of youth when they rally around issues of governance, corruption, and accountability. The question is whether Africa's own restless youth population, frustrated by unemployment, also by weak institutions and shrinking civic space, will perhaps see this as sample from Kathmandu. We saw what happened in Kenya from a couple of months ago.
And then the African angle here is critical. If Gen Z in Nepal could force reform through numbers, persistence, and unity, what lessons are there for African societies where young people face similar disillusionment? To help us make sense of this movement, we're joined by Mwanase Ahmed, human rights defender from Kenya, and Victor Terhemba, programs manager at Ready to Lead Africa. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, but I will go directly to Mwanase in Kenya. Mwanase, we see that the Gen Zs in Nepal, they took to the streets for transparency, reform, accountability. You know, the force was all out there on the street. From your experience in East Africa, do you see parallels in the frustrations of African youths today?
Thank you for having me. Absolutely. I think a lot of our countries, although very different, all with their own context and challenges, we face a lot of challenges that the base reason of it is corruption. It's bad governance. And what does that mean for us when it comes to public service delivery, job creation, economic opportunities, the ability to live dignified lives? So I think ultimately this is a widespread problem that is a post-colonial, neo-colonial, it's internal colonization by our own people who have come into power and are too greedy. So I think we're at a tipping point continentally, globally, where the inequalities and the exploitation can no longer be sustained, and people are going to continue rising. Each country has its own context and will have its own experience and pathway to resistance and to the next wave of liberation and freedom and pursuit of change. So I do think there's a lot of parallels across the African continent, although also unique experiences.
Victor, I'm going to come to you, but I wanted to piggyback off of something that Mwanase said. Mwanase, you live in Kenya. You saw what happened with the youth population there and their protests. Now, let's compare that to Nepal. Now, Nepal, they got results. Whether you like it or not, the PM resigned and they have a new PM. There was result. Do you think there was result in the Kenya instance? Do you think that there was much change? Do you think that in the African context, whatever African country, that the youth actually drive change at all? And if they don't, why don't they? Why are they incapable of?
Thank you. I think that what happened in Nepal is what we started to see happen in Kenya in terms of, Ruto firing his administration, firing the CSs, and we did see some similarities in terms of some changes in governance. We did not see the same series of events, and we also saw a lot of brutality, a lot more extrajudicial killings, violence. There were murders in Nepal, and that was, I think triple, quadruple in Kenya. So there are Kenyans who are angry and said, we didn't finish, look at what Nepal did, what have we done? Ultimately, I think, as I said, every country will have its form of resistance and change, and that liberation will look different. But we did see some similarities in terms of, the cabinet secretary all being fired, but then they were brought in with new, just as corrupt, just as incompetent leaders. So did we see results? I definitely think we saw results because we see a large majority of the country being politically, participating politically and ready to bring a ballot revolution rather than a bullet revolution. And we lost so many lives that it was difficult to continue pushing. Now the youth, we're not waiting another 5, another 3, another 10, another 20 years to see the change we want and need to see. We're not the leaders of tomorrow, we are the change makers of today. So youth are 100% driving change within their countries already, from outside of government, and also for pushing for good governance, for meeting the gaps that poor governance leaves behind, and organizing for the transition of political power. So again, each country will have its own pathway, but Kenya is 100% still organizing for transition of political power. We're just not on the streets asking our oppressors to stop oppressing us, or our murderers to stop murdering us, or thieves to stop stealing so much. We're actually trying to transition them out, uphold them to the rule of law. There are a lot of criminals and gangsters who are sitting in these political seats. So we are organizing to transition political power and hold them accountable still for all of the injustices and their actions.
Thank you, Mwanase. Victor Terhemba, Ready to Lead Africa, Programs Manager. Let's take the Nigerian context now. Now, the tool that young people in Nepal had, that the young people in Kenya had, was actually urgency. The vehicle was protest. We also have that here in Nigeria. Young people want change now. However, in Nigeria, we see a situation where they go on protests, and the protests end, and not much changes. Where is that gap? What's happening here? What is the Nigerian situation lacking?
So, thank you very much, and then good morning, everyone. So, for every time when we talk about protests, and then we're also talking about results, like in recent history, we always like to refer back to NSAS. And when you look at NSAS protests, NSAS was actually largely successful, in my opinion, and I think that in the opinion of why the protest in the first place was organized, it was successful. It was to say, let us end police brutality at the beginning, and what you can see, although the police brutality continued, but no longer at that rate, at that level, at that infinitious level that it was before this infinite change and after the this protest. So we are organized in that way, and it also looked like sometimes it's only one issue. Everybody, all the young people have a particular grievance, like desires for good governance, for more accessible facilities, for more living conditions, better economic opportunities, and all of that. But however, what always happens is that the youth get to rally around one particular issue. And then from that issue, we now escalate to now express all of our grievances around the issues of corruption, around the issues of nepotism, and the rest. So when you even look at Kenya, for instance, the reject finance bill started off as, let us reject that financial bill to start with, and then you see later that it snowballed into a larger demand for a larger and wider reform. Same thing happened in Nepal, same thing we witnessed in Nigeria, in NSAS, and also in this kind of bad governance this in protest. And so, but what happened where we sometimes people not think that we are not achieving results, or the results were not achieved at a scale, is because maybe it was not at the scale where we want, but we are coming to understand that the kind of change that mostly we want is going to be evolutionary and not a kind of evolutionary. And that is why this man talked about saying now young people are working with the stakeholders to transition power. So it is no longer like on the streets where we are fighting and demanding. So now we are, sitting at the policy table, designing policies that favor young people, designing how more young people become included, become more inclusive, participate within the process, and also design what their future looks like. So that is the stage where this currently we are. And then I think that I've given a general kind of overview around the potential for Nigeria as well.
Right. So with your view, we also know that we have a lot of young populations in Africa. Most of the youngest population is from Africa. But our leaders remain old guard, very, very old guard. So my point is, you think we will need another protest to be able to turn this around? And how much of a time bomb is this disconnect between the leaders that we have and the citizens? Victor, please.
So, so there is no disconnect per se. I think that even the older people are not listening. So the main issue is not about whether we have older people there. It's about the conditions that young people find themselves, if they are able to pursue their ambitions and their kind of aspiration as they deem fit. So when you even look at Nepal case, for instance, after this working as my prime minister resigned, the Gen Zs are now working with the working as chief of army staff to form a new government. And the person that they have also proposed that should be the head of the interim government is a 70-something years old working as former chief justice. So usually, because they are young people, but then they believe in a leadership that it will bring about success. So usually it's not about how, and then for every time you see protests that happen, from the NSAS protest, from this in Kenya working on protest, and now this Nepal protest, in Nigeria, leaders, the government are very wary. They know that there is a sitting time bomb between what they do now to, fulfill the aspiration of young people and how the young people might get to this react. And that is why every time there is like an inkling of saying maybe the young people want to organize and come up for this protest, you see how the government begins to panic, begins to issue statement upon statement, begins to also issue amongst the young people. I don't know. So it's like they understand the different potentials of this and what is going to be there. And it's actually good that they know that the youth have the capacity to mobilize in numbers, come out, and then demand for their resignation until they basically leave. But like I said earlier, we are beginning to understand that the best way to cause change is within the democratic institutions, which we are now currently engaging largely across Africa generally. Okay,
so Victor, let me interject real quick. You mentioned that there was no disconnect between our leaders and the citizens, and then you mentioned that the new prime minister in Nepal is 73 years old. That is Sushili Kaki. Now, it took them about 4 to 5 days protests with the burning of the parliament to be able to get what they asked for. In Nigeria or in Africa, well, let me say Nigeria because we're in Nigeria, we see that it takes weeks, months. We've seen either from the seafarers to the doctors to anywhere to get results, and then they come up with a community. So explain to me when you say there's no disconnect between the leaders and the citizens, using that as a reference.
Okay. Yeah, so when I mean that there's no disconnect, I don't mean it in the in terms of governance service delivery. I mean it in the sense that if we both have the understanding that something drastic can be done when the youth mobilize, and which is why I gave the instance that it's why the government begins to fret anytime.
Oh, it seems
the young people to a sign that they want to actually mobilize.
All right, Victor, thank you very much. Mwanase, we didn't forget you. Let's come back to you. Now, Mwanase, when we take a look at protests across Africa recently, and especially in Nepal, what happened in Kathmandu, very unique. Social media was a very big part of it. Social media was actually the matches that set the fire when they were what's the word, banned by decree, ban these social. That's what sparked the fire. In Africa, we see social media used as a tool during protests. We've also heard of arguments that social media is cut off when there are protests from specific areas just so that, there's communication issues. But the biggest deal here in the Nepal issue was that social media also was a big apparatus used to put in place the new PM. Many say she was not elected, she was selected. And they did this on an app where people were able to, in quote, vote and say, we would like Sushila Paki as the interim PM. And it seemed to work. Now, how can we plug into that in our electoral system here in Africa? How can we begin to involve the young people, because social media is where they live, eat, and sleep every day? How can we make these processes how can we involve these processes into our systems?
Thank you. I just briefly comment that I think there's a huge disconnect between the leadership and the needs of the youth and the needs of the citizenry. And if there wasn't, regardless of the age, the leadership would be serving the needs of the people, and there wouldn't be such challenges in existence in livelihoods, and there wouldn't be these mass uprisings and kind of tipping points. So just a brief comment there as I transition to your question. Okay. Social media is extremely important at the moment to be able to expose injustice, to share thoughts, to organize people, for our countries to also see what's happening in other places, to inspire each other. As you mentioned, there is a lot of censorship that's happening in Kenya as well. Last year, during one of what we called like the Githurai pipeline massacre, which was one evening after the protests when the police went into a pretty marginalized community, and it was basically a mass massacre where we will never know the results of what happened then, because there was a blackout, a network blackout simultaneous to that. So censorship is dangerous. I think the government tries to use it in their benefit because they would like people to stop using social media to spread truth, to share the truth, to showcase the realities. And technology in itself is extremely powerful. So we are seeing youth in Kenya as well already trying to use technology to allow for participation in, for public participation in government processes. For example, there was a young set up a website that would allow people a recent finance bill. I believe it was either finance or data protection. And the government actually came for her in her house, abducted her, imprisoned her, and locked her up because she had started this portal which would allow people to directly engage in giving feedback on bills, which is a function that is meant to be within government and within good governance. So technology could completely be a game changer in enabling participation in governance, in voting, in having independent data compilation where people can participate in the electoral processes or government processes. But the government is afraid of that because they have less control over it. So if we retain the ballot where you have to go and stay in line and they can block you from participating and they can burn ballot boxes and miscount, and it allows for predetermined outcomes or influenced outcomes. So technology will continue to be an extremely important part of electoral processes. dissemination of information and organizing.
All right, then, Mwanase.
And we are sure they'll continue to fight back against
Sorry, I have to break in there, Mwanase. We are out of time. I have one last question for Victor. Victor, you are aware of the situations in Nigeria. Young people seem very disenfranchised. In fact, they don't seem like a system, like a part of the system. How can we involve them, noting that social media is a big part of their lives? And I mean now in the electoral process itself. Do you think the reforms we're looking for inside of the electoral process should involve the use of social media in electing public officers?
Well, I think that would be an interesting something to actually look at and also consider. And I also say this because we are transitioning from generations to like another generations. And if you take a cue from like Nepal, so the protest happened because of social media ban. And the government thought that asking social media to register and then regulate them would bring sanity. But then they don't understand that young people are people that are now formed with different kind of orientation. They have different issues. They are in a different culture. They have different ideologies now. So if as much as we have embraced, and I think this is also a conversation that would be interesting to have to see how we integrate technology completely. We've seen suggestions from young people that why can't we just vote from this comfort of their homes? Why do they have to expose themselves outside to this political violence? Why do they have to stress themselves outside? And so there's a talk about kind of electronic voting, and then there's also about tech voting, virtual voting using blockchain and all of this. So these are conversations that would be interesting to consider to see how we embrace young people, because in the long run, nothing stays static. Society is always evolve. And so once you have gone to generation where we are mostly social media inclined, then we can start exploring this to see how we can integrate this technology into our system.
Thank you so much, Victor, Terhemba, and Mwanase Ahmed for joining us and giving us insight as to the situation in Nepal. We're truly appreciative. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. And indeed, this is where we draw the curtains for today's show. In fact, the entire weekend has been a very interesting one from the start to the end. It's been no miss at all, no miss. Thank you once again, Queen.
Thank you, Nasina.
We still get to keep Queen till next week, so look forward to seeing her here next week. It's goodbye from us. However, I would like to say, do join at 7 a.m. tomorrow for Breakfast Central, where the trio would be giving you all you need to know when it comes to breakfast television, and the news, current affairs, and all. And that will be Johansson Bengagbora, and if she graces us, Imodi Olive as well. Until then, it's goodbye from us here on Breakfast Extra. See you guys next week. Yes?
Bye.